Rain battered the emergency room windows so hard that it sounded like someone was throwing handfuls of gravel against the glass. Inside, chaos ruled. Monitors shrieked. Stretchers raced across polished floors. Nurses shouted medication dosages. A little boy cried for his mother. Somewhere down the hall, someone screamed. Dr. Amelia Hart barely noticed any of it anymore. After 12 hours on her feet, exhaustion had become another heartbeat inside her body. She tightened the messy knot holding back her chestnut curls, adjusted the stethoscope hanging around her neck, and hurried toward Trauma Bay 3. At 29, Amelia had become one of the city's most dependable emergency physicians. Not because anyone believed in her. Because she refused to fail. Patients trusted her. Colleagues relied on her. Yet outside the hospital, she was almost invisible. Or worse. She was the woman strangers felt entitled to judge. Too curvy. Too ordinary. Too quiet. Too soft. The comments had followed her since childhood. Pretty face, if only you'd lose weight. Doctors should look healthier. A woman like you should lower her standards. Years ago, those words had shattered her confidence. Now they simply reminded her to work harder. Healing people mattered more than pleasing them. Still, some wounds never completely disappeared. Dr. Hart. A nurse rushed toward her. Multiple gunshot victims incoming. 3 ambulances. ETA 2 minutes. Gunshot wounds. Again. The city had become increasingly violent over the last 6 months. Nobody knew why. Police reports blamed gang warfare. Rumors whispered something much darker. Amelia slipped on fresh gloves. Prep all trauma rooms. Notify surgery. Massive transfusion protocol. Everyone moved instantly. Even senior physicians listened when Amelia gave orders. She never shouted. She never panicked. She simply knew exactly what to do. Outside. Sirens pierced the storm. 1, 2, 3 ambulances. Their rear doors flew open simultaneously. Paramedics jumped out, soaked by the rain. We've got multiple GSWs. 1 critical. Possible internal hemorrhage. Unknown identities. Stretchers flooded into the emergency department. Blood dripped across the floor. Family members screamed behind security barriers. Amelia scanned every patient with practiced precision. 1 teenager. Conscious. Stable airway. 2nd patient. Older man. Abdominal wound. Urgent but survivable. Then, the last stretcher rolled inside. Everything around her seemed to slow. The man lying there wore an expensive charcoal suit now soaked in blood. His white dress shirt had turned crimson. A single bullet wound sat just below his ribs. Another had grazed his shoulder. His pulse was dangerously weak. Despite the blood loss, he looked strangely composed. Even unconscious. His face was sharp enough to belong on a magazine cover. Dark hair. Strong jaw. An expensive watch worth more than Amelia's annual salary. Several deep scars disappeared beneath his collar. Not business scars. Battle scars. 1 paramedic leaned close. No identification. Another hesitated. But what? We found 6 armed men protecting him. Amelia frowned. Security. The paramedic swallowed. They weren't police. Before Amelia could ask another question, every automatic door in the ER slid open. Heavy footsteps echoed. 1, 2, 10, 20. Nearly 30 men entered together. Black tailored suits. Expressionless faces. Earpieces. Hidden weapons. The entire emergency room fell silent. Even the crying child stopped. The men spread across the entrance with military precision. Hospital security froze. Then one elderly nurse whispered something that made every doctor nearby go pale. "Oh my God! It's them!" Amelia looked confused. "The Moretti Syndicate." The words meant nothing to her. She rarely followed organized crime news. She barely had time to sleep. A tall silver-haired man stepped forward. His posture was flawless. His voice perfectly controlled. "Our boss survives." It wasn't a request. It was a promise. Hospital administrators hurried over immediately. "We'll do everything possible." The older man ignored everyone except Amelia. "You." She blinked. "Yes. You are treating him?" "I'm the attending trauma physician." His eyes studied her carefully, almost as if deciding whether she deserved to breathe. "You have one job. Save him. If he dies." He never finished the sentence. He didn't have to. Everyone understood. Fear spread through the emergency room like electricity. Amelia didn't. She simply answered the only way she knew. "I'll save him if medicine allows it." Not fate. Not threats. Medicine. For the first time, the silver-haired man's expression changed. Very slightly. "Respect." "What's his name?" Amelia asked while examining the patient's pupils. Silence. None of the suited men answered. Instead, one of them reluctantly produced a black leather wallet. Inside, no driver's license, no credit cards, only a single black metal card engraved with one name, Lucian Moretti. Several nurses gasped. One resident physician actually stepped backward. Amelia looked around. What? Nobody spoke. Finally, the hospital director whispered with trembling lips, "Dr. Hart, that's not just a patient. That's Lucian Moretti, the most feared Mafia King on the East Coast." Amelia stared at the unconscious man. Impossible. This calm-looking stranger, this wounded patient, was responsible for an empire whispered about in fear across the country? She had no time to think. The cardiac monitor suddenly screamed. Beep! His blood pressure crashed. Heart rhythm destabilizing. Massive internal bleeding. Everything happened at once. He's crashing. Pressure dropping. We're losing him. Amelia climbed onto the side of the stretcher without hesitation. Move! The room exploded back into motion. Or now. Blood. Intubate. Massive transfusion. As they rushed Lucian toward surgery, Amelia pressed both gloved hands against the wound with every ounce of strength she had. Warm blood soaked through her gloves, through her sleeves, across her white coat. The silver-haired advisor walked beside the stretcher without taking his eyes off her. His words were almost inaudible. "If you save him, you'll change the future. If you fail—" He looked toward the rain-covered hospital entrance, where dozens more black SUVs had just arrived. There may not be a future left for anyone in this hospital. The operating room doors burst open. Amelia pushed Lucian inside, completely unaware that hidden among the arriving security team, someone quietly lifted a suppressed pistol and aimed it straight at the operating room doors. The sound was barely louder than a dropped book, but every member of Lucian Moretti's security team reacted instantly. Sniper! No! Inside the hospital. Seal every entrance. The hallway erupted into controlled chaos. Men in tailored black suits drew concealed pistols with military precision, surrounding the operating suite in a living wall of steel. Inside Operating Room 4, Amelia heard none of it. Her world had narrowed to one patient, one failing heartbeat, one impossible chance. Blood pressure, 80/40 and falling. Pulse is thready. Suction. A nurse placed another instrument into Amelia's hand before she even asked. The surgical team moved as though they shared one mind. Amelia leaned over Lucian's open abdomen, her brow furrowed in concentration. There! She spotted it. The bullet had torn through a branch of the hepatic artery. Every second, more blood pooled beneath her hands. Clamp! The instrument touched her palm instantly. She secured the vessel. The torrent slowed. Not enough. He's still bleeding. The anesthesiologist's voice remained steady despite the worsening numbers. We're losing him. Amelia ignored the panic creeping into everyone else's eyes. Think. Not fear. Think. Her gaze swept across the wound. A tiny tear, almost invisible, behind the liver, hidden beneath damaged tissue. Most surgeons would have missed it. She didn't. There you are. She repaired the second rupture with careful precision. Seconds later, the monitor steadied. Beep, beep, beep. The operating room collectively exhaled. Blood pressure climbed. Heart rhythm normalized. Color slowly returned to Lucian's face. One nurse actually wiped tears from her eyes. You did it. Amelia shook her head. We're not celebrating until he's awake. She had learned long ago that survival was only the beginning. Outside the operating suite, the silver-haired advisor, Vittorio Romano, listened as one of the guards spoke into his earpiece. The shooter escaped. Casualties. One guard injured. Vittorio's jaw tightened. Someone had known exactly where Lucian would be taken. Someone inside their own organization had leaked the route. A traitor. Again. His eyes shifted toward the operating room door. If the doctor had been even 30 seconds slower, Lucian Moretti would already be dead. 3 hours later, the surgery finally ended. Amelia removed her gloves with exhausted hands. Her shoulders ached. Her feet burned. There was dried blood on her sleeves, her shoes, even a streak across her cheek she hadn't noticed. As she stepped into the hallway, every conversation stopped. Nearly 40 armed men turned to look at her. No one spoke. No one smiled. Vittorio approached first. Is he alive? Amelia nodded once. He's stable. The old advisor closed his eyes for a brief moment. Relief. It lasted only a second before his usual calm expression returned. You have our gratitude. I was doing my job. You did more than that. Before Amelia could respond, another voice interrupted. Doctor! A sharply dressed woman strode down the hallway in designer heels. Perfect makeup. Diamond earrings. Cold blue eyes. She looked Amelia up and down as though evaluating damaged furniture. So, this is the doctor everyone is praising? Her gaze lingered on Amelia's blood-stained scrubs. I expected someone a little more. She smiled without warmth. Polished. Amelia had seen that look before. Too many times. The silent judgment. Too big. Too plain. Not glamorous enough. She simply replied, The patient survived. That's what matters. The woman crossed her arms. I'm Bianca Valente, Lucian's fiancée. Several guards exchanged uneasy glances. Vittorio remained silent. Amelia offered a polite nod. "It's good you arrived." Bianca frowned slightly. "No. It's fortunate that I arrived." Her attention shifted to the operating room. "When Lucian wakes up, he'll want me." Amelia resisted the urge to point out that Bianca hadn't been there when he was bleeding to death. Instead, she answered professionally, "He'll remain sedated for several hours. You may visit once he's transferred to intensive care." Bianca's lips tightened. "I don't take instructions from hospital staff." Before Amelia could answer, Vittorio spoke. "You will today." The hallway went silent again. Bianca stared at him. "You forget your place." "I never forget mine." "You are not the one who decides." His tone remained calm. "Neither are you." The tension between them was unmistakable. Amelia quietly excused herself. Whatever politics ruled the Moretti syndicate, she wanted no part of them. The staff locker room felt wonderfully quiet. Amelia changed into fresh scrubs and splashed cold water across her face. Only then did she notice her phone. 23 missed messages. Most were from her older sister. The last one simply read, "Did you see the news?" Confused, Amelia opened a news app. The headline covered every major network. "Unknown gunman attack business convoy. Identity of victim unconfirmed." No names. No photographs. Only speculation. She sighed. Good. At least the hospital had protected patient confidentiality. She shoved the phone into her pocket and headed toward the cafeteria. Halfway there, someone called her name. Dr. Hart. She turned. Vittorio stood alone. Without the intimidating crowd of bodyguards, he somehow looked even more imposing. "You haven't eaten." She blinked. "What? You've been working 16 hours. You should eat." She almost laughed. The feared consigliere of the Moretti syndicate was reminding her to have lunch. "I'm fine." "No." He handed her a small paper bag. Inside was a fresh turkey sandwich, fruit, and a bottle of water. "Our chef prepared it." "You shouldn't have." "It was requested." "By who?" Vittorio hesitated. "Someone who believes debts should never remain unpaid." Amelia frowned. "But your boss is unconscious." Vittorio merely inclined his head. "Nevertheless." Before she could ask another question, he walked away. Late that evening, Lucian Moretti finally opened his eyes. The ICU room remained dim. Machines hummed softly. Pain greeted him before memory did. Then everything returned. The ambush. The betrayal. The bullets. His first words were barely above a whisper. "The doctor." Vittorio stepped closer. "She's safe." Lucian's eyes remained fixed on the ceiling. "Describe her." Vittorio looked mildly surprised. Curly brown hair. Kind eyes. Calm. Exceptionally skilled. He paused. "And she wasn't afraid of you." A faint smile almost touched Lucian's lips. "Interesting. Most people either feared him or wanted something from him." According to Vittorio, this doctor had wanted only one thing: to save a life. Nothing more. "Bring her." "The hospital administrator says she's already gone home." Lucian closed his eyes again. "Then bring her tomorrow." The next morning, Amelia arrived for another exhausting shift. She expected overflowing waiting rooms, coffee, paperwork, broken bones, heart attacks, normal chaos. Instead, She found 6 black luxury SUVs parked outside the emergency entrance. Every hospital employee had stopped to stare. A line of impeccably dressed security personnel stood waiting. The moment Amelia stepped onto the sidewalk, every one of them turned toward her. Vittorio approached with his usual composed expression. "Good morning, Dr. Hart." She looked from him to the convoy. "What is all this?" "Our boss wishes to thank you personally." "I have patience." He anticipated that answer. Vittorio held out an elegant black envelope embossed with a silver wolf crest. Inside was a handwritten note. Only 6 words. "Come willingly. Leave whenever you choose." No signature. None was needed. Amelia looked back toward the hospital entrance. Then at the waiting convoy. Something told her that stepping into one of those armored vehicles would change her life forever. Before she could decide, a deafening explosion ripped through the hospital parking garage. The ground shook beneath her feet. Smoke billowed into the morning sky. People screamed, and Vittorio's expression hardened as he uttered just 3 words. "He's found us." The explosion shattered every window facing the parking garage. Glass rained across the emergency entrance. People screamed and dropped to the ground. Car alarms erupted in every direction. Amelia instinctively covered the little girl standing beside her, shielding the child with her own body as fragments of glass scattered across the pavement. "It's okay," she whispered. "Stay behind me." Security guards rushed civilians away from the entrance. Within seconds, Lucian Moretti's protection team formed a defensive circle around Amelia and Vittorio. Not because she had asked. Because someone had just tried to eliminate the only doctor who knew exactly how close their boss had come to death. Smoke and suspicion. "Doctor!" A nurse ran toward Amelia. "We have casualties." Without another thought, Amelia broke through the security circle. "I need to help." 2 bodyguards moved to stop her. Vittorio raised one hand. "Let her go." "But she will never forgive herself if innocent people suffer." The guards stepped aside. Amelia sprinted into the smoke. A security officer lay beneath a twisted section of concrete. Another victim had burns across both arms. A maintenance worker was unconscious, barely breathing. The hospital had become another battlefield. "Bring oxygen. Prepare Trauma Bay 1. We need portable ultrasound." Her calm voice cut through the panic. Doctors, nurses, and paramedics immediately followed her instructions. She crawled under unstable debris to reach the trapped officer. One firefighter grabbed her shoulder. "Doctor, it's dangerous." "So is leaving him there." Together they freed the injured man moments before another section of concrete collapsed. When they finally reached safety, the firefighter stared at her. "You don't think about yourself, do you?" Amelia smiled faintly. "I became an ER doctor because someone has to think about everyone else." Nearby, Vittorio watched silently. His respect for her deepened. A different kind of strength. An hour later, the fire was under control. Police declared the blast an act of targeted sabotage. No fatalities. 12 injuries. Every one of them alive. Because Amelia Hart had refused to hesitate. As she washed soot from her hands, Vittorio approached once more. "Our convoy is still waiting. I can't leave now. You've already worked 19 hours. My patients have been reassigned." She frowned. "I never approved that. The hospital director did." Amelia looked toward the entrance. Her shift was over. The injured were stable. There was nothing more she could do. Finally she sighed. 1 hour. Vittorio inclined his head. That will be sufficient. The Moretti estate. The convoy wound through forest roads lined with towering pines before reaching a pair of wrought-iron gates nearly 20 feet tall. They opened silently. Beyond them stretched an estate unlike anything Amelia had ever imagined. Rolling gardens, stone fountains, ancient olive trees. A mansion that looked more like a European palace than a private home. Marble columns rose 3 stories high. Luxury cars gleamed beneath covered garages. Armed guards patrolled every corner with disciplined precision. Amelia stared through the SUV window. This is one house? The driver smiled for the first time. Mr. Moretti dislikes calling it a mansion. What does he call it? Home. First impressions. Inside, polished marble reflected crystal chandeliers. Original paintings covered the walls. Fresh flowers filled every hallway. Despite the immense wealth, nothing felt gaudy. Everything was elegant, intentional, timeless. A woman in her 60s greeted Amelia warmly. "You must be Dr. Hart." She wore a simple navy dress and a gentle smile. "I'm Sophia. I manage the household." Unlike everyone else, Sophia embraced Amelia without hesitation. "You've brought hope back into this home." Amelia blinked in surprise. "I only did my job." "My dear." Sophia squeezed her hands. "Sometimes doing your job changes lives." For the first time since entering the estate, Amelia relaxed. The Mafia King awake. Vittorio led her upstairs. 2 guards opened enormous double doors. Lucian Moretti stood beside floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens. He wore a black cashmere sweater and tailored trousers. One hand rested lightly against the glass. The other still bore an 4-line. Even recovering from surgery, he radiated quiet authority. He turned. Their eyes met for the first time. Up close, Amelia noticed details she had missed in surgery. A faint scar crossed one eyebrow. Another disappeared beneath his jawline. His dark eyes were calm, observant, and unexpectedly tired. For several seconds, neither spoke. Finally Lucian broke the silence. "You ignored my reputation." Amelia answered honestly. "I didn't know who you were. And after you learned, I still had a patient." The corner of his mouth lifted almost imperceptibly. "You valued my life exactly as much as everyone else's." "Of course." She sounded genuinely confused. "Isn't that what every doctor should do?" Lucian studied her carefully. Most people treated him differently the moment they learned his name. Some became terrified. Others became greedy. This woman remained exactly the same. It unsettled him. Lucian gestured toward a nearby chair. "Sit." She remained standing. "I won't be long." His eyebrow rose. "That wasn't a request." Amelia folded her arms. "And I'm not your employee." The room fell silent. Several guards exchanged nervous glances. No one spoke to Lucian Moretti that way. Ever. Vittorio watched carefully. Lucian held Amelia's gaze for a long moment. Then he laughed. A quiet, genuine laugh. The guards looked stunned. No one could remember the last time their boss had laughed. "You passed." She frowned. "Passed what?" "My first test." "I wasn't taking one." "Exactly." Lucian nodded slowly.
You refused to surrender your dignity. I have no interest in controlling people who respect themselves. Amelia wasn't sure whether to feel relieved or irritated. A strange way to thank someone. It was also an apology. For what? For forcing you to come here. She hadn't expected that. Not from the city's most feared crime lord. Lucian reached for a small velvet box resting on the table. He slid it toward her. I owe you my life. Amelia didn't touch it. I can't accept expensive gifts from patients. It's hospital policy. It's also my personal policy. Lucian looked amused. At least open it. Reluctantly, she lifted the lid. Inside rested a delicate silver bracelet. Simple. Elegant. A tiny engraved heartbeat charm hung from it. Not diamonds. Not extravagant. Just tasteful craftsmanship. Still, Amelia closed the box. It's beautiful. But I can't. Lucian nodded once. I expected that answer. Instead of insisting, he pushed the box aside. Then allow me to repay you another way. There is nothing to repay. There is. My mother once told me that gratitude loses its value if it remains only words. His voice softened almost imperceptibly. I intend to honor her advice. Amelia noticed the brief shadow crossing his face. There was pain there. Old pain. The kind that never fully healed. Before she could ask about it, Vittorio entered quietly. Boss. Lucian looked up. What is it? We've identified the driver of yesterday's convoy. And he wasn't among the dead. Silence. He disappeared 15 minutes before the ambush. Lucian's expression became cold again. A traitor. Vittorio nodded. We believe he had help inside the estate. Lucian glanced instinctively toward Amelia. For the first time, his private world and hers had collided completely. Someone inside his organization had betrayed him. Someone dangerous was still hiding within these walls. And now, the only outsider who knew too much was standing beside him. Lucian's eyes narrowed slightly as a chilling realization settled over the room. If there's a traitor inside my house, then Dr. Hart is no longer just a witness. He looked directly at Amelia. She's become a target. For one long, silent moment, no one in the room moved. Amelia felt every pair of eyes shift toward her. She looked from Lucian to Vittorio, then to the armed guards lining the walls. Finally, she let out a slow breath. So you're telling me someone tried to kill you? Lucian nodded once. They failed. And now they might come after me. They will. There was no hesitation in his answer, no attempt to soften the truth. Amelia folded her arms. I saved your life. You did. And now my life is in danger because of it. Yes. His honesty should have made her angry. Instead, it made her trust him a little more. He wasn't manipulating her. He wasn't lying. He was simply stating the reality neither of them had chosen. Lucian stepped closer, careful not to invade her space. I have a proposal. I'm listening. Remain here. She blinked. What? Until we eliminate the threat. Amelia almost laughed. You expect me to move into the home of the most feared mafia boss in the country? I expect you to stay alive. I have a career. You'll keep it. I have patients. You'll continue treating them. How? I'll arrange secure transportation every day. Amelia stared at him. You've clearly never been told no very often. A faint smile touched his face. Not recently. Then let me remind you. She met his gaze without flinching. No. Several guards looked horrified. Lucian merely watched her with quiet interest. Why? Because fear doesn't get to decide where I live. And because I refuse to become a prisoner, even in a palace. The words lingered in the room. Instead of arguing, Lucian turned toward the enormous windows. My mother used to say courage and stubbornness often wear the same face. Amelia smiled despite herself. She sounds wise. She was. The softness in his voice vanished almost as quickly as it appeared. A hidden enemy. Meanwhile, 2 floors below, a young security officer quietly slipped into the estate's communications room. He glanced over his shoulder before removing a tiny encrypted phone from inside his boot. One message. Only 4 words. The doctor refused protection. Seconds later, a reply appeared. Then make sure she regrets it. The guard deleted both messages. No one noticed him leave. Back to the hospital. True to his promise, Lucian allowed Amelia to leave. The convoy escorted her back to the hospital. 6 armored SUVs. 8 motorcycles. More security than some heads of state. As they pulled into the emergency entrance, doctors and nurses stopped what they were doing. Patients stared openly. Someone whispered, "Is that a Mafia convoy?" Another murmured, "Who's inside?" Amelia groaned quietly. "This is exactly what I wanted to avoid." Vittorio opened the SUV door. "Our apologies. I'll never hear the end of this. You are alive to hear it." She couldn't argue with that. Whispers in the hallways. By lunchtime, the rumors had spread through every department. Some believed Amelia had accepted money from organized crime. Others claimed she was secretly dating Lucian Moretti. A few insisted she had become his personal physician. Most had no idea what to believe. As Amelia entered the staff lounge, conversations stopped. Dr. Ethan Mercer leaned against the coffee machine. Tall, well-groomed, popular. He had once dated Amelia for nearly a year, until he decided she wasn't the image he wanted beside him. His smile hadn't improved with time. "So, I hear you've upgraded." Amelia sighed. "Not today, Ethan. Black SUVs, private security, luxury escorts. You always did surprise people." She reached for her coffee. "I'm working." "So am I." He lowered his voice. "Be careful." She looked up. For a brief moment, genuine concern replaced his usual arrogance. "These aren't the kind of people you walk away from. I didn't ask to meet them." "No. But now you're involved." Before Amelia could answer, the emergency pager sounded. "Trauma team to Bay 2. Conversation ended instantly. Duty came first. Always. The ambulance doors burst open. A teenage delivery driver had been struck by a speeding truck. Massive blood loss. Collapsed lung. Internal injuries. Amelia took command. Chest tube. Prepare O-negative. Notify surgery. The young man's terrified mother grabbed Amelia's arm. "Please. Save my son." Amelia squeezed her hand gently. "We're going to do everything we can." For the next 2 hours, she fought once again against death. When the surgery finally ended successfully, the grateful mother burst into tears. "I don't know how to thank you." Amelia smiled warmly. Go hug your son when he wakes up. As she left the recovery room, she noticed someone standing quietly at the end of the hallway. Lucian. No security. No entourage. Just him. He had watched the entire operation through the observation window. You shouldn't be walking, Amelia said immediately. You need rest. I wanted to see something. What? The woman who risked everything for strangers. She folded her arms. You came all this way just to watch me work? I needed confirmation. Of what? That Vittorio hadn't exaggerated. And he looked toward the recovering teenager. He underestimated you. Respect earned. They walked together through a quiet hospital corridor. For the first time, neither felt the need to fill the silence. Lucian finally spoke. When I was 12, my mother was dying. Amelia listened without interrupting. The nearest hospital refused to treat her. They were afraid. He stopped walking. They believed helping my family would make them enemies. What happened? His expression remained unreadable. She died. Amelia's heart tightened. I'm sorry. I built my empire on one promise. No innocent person would ever suffer because of my name again. She studied him carefully. For the first time, she understood something important. Behind the ruthless reputation, there was a frightened boy who had once watched his mother slip away because people were too afraid to help. You became powerful, so no one could ever refuse your family again. Lucian met her eyes. Exactly. Amelia's opinion of him shifted. Not completely, but enough. She no longer saw only a feared Mafia King. She saw a man shaped by unimaginable loss. Shadows closing in. Neither of them noticed the maintenance worker pushing a cleaning cart down the opposite corridor. He wore hospital overalls, a cap, disposable gloves, completely ordinary. Hidden beneath the folded towels rested a compact sniper rifle, disassembled into 6 pieces. As Lucian and Amelia reached the hospital entrance, the disguised assassin quietly entered an unused maintenance room. He locked the door, opened the cart, and began assembling the weapon with practiced hands. Through the small ventilation window, he had a perfect view of the parking lot. He smiled coldly. This time, both of you die. The maintenance room overlooked the hospital's eastern parking lot through a narrow ventilation window. The assassin worked with mechanical precision. A barrel clicked into place. The scope locked. A suppressor twisted on with practiced ease. Within seconds, the compact rifle became a weapon capable of killing from hundreds of feet away. He settled behind it. Crosshairs found Lucian Moretti first, then drifted toward Amelia. A slow breath, a steady finger, one squeeze. Instinct. Outside, Amelia and Lucian stood near the convoy. You really shouldn't be out here, Amelia insisted. You've lost too much blood. Lucian looked at her. You sound more like a commander than a doctor. I've been called worse. A faint smile touched his lips. It disappeared the instant his instincts screamed. Years of surviving assassination attempts had sharpened his senses. Something was wrong. His eyes swept across the hospital facade. Nothing unusual. Visitors, nurses, ambulances. Then, a brief flash of sunlight reflected off a scope lens. Lucian moved before he consciously understood why. Down! He grabbed Amelia around the waist and pulled her behind the armored SUV. Crack! The suppressed rifle barely made a sound. The bullet shattered the SUV's rear window instead of Amelia's skull. Glass exploded around them. People screamed. "Shoot her! Take cover! The ambush begins!" The parking lot dissolved into chaos. Bodyguards surrounded Lucian and Amelia, using their own bodies as shields. Vittorio's voice thundered through his radio. "Locate the shooter. Seal the perimeter. No civilians near the east wing." Another shot. A guard spun backward, clutching his shoulder. "He's in the building." Lucian kept Amelia pressed safely behind the armored vehicle. "Stay here." She glared at him. "I'm a trauma doctor, and I'm telling you to stay alive." Before she could argue, 3 more gunmen burst from a delivery van near the ambulance entrance. Automatic rifles. Body armor. No hesitation. Bullets ripped across the parking lot. Hospital visitors ran in every direction. Parents shielded children. Doctors dragged patients back inside. Lucian's security answered immediately. The sharp crack of pistols echoed through the air. The gunfight had begun. Saving lives under fire. A young paramedic collapsed near an overturned stretcher. A bullet had torn through his thigh. He screamed in agony, exposed in the middle of the firefight. Amelia saw him instantly. "I'm going." Lucian caught her wrist. "No. He'll bleed out. It's too dangerous. If I don't go, he'll die." For one brief second, neither moved. Then Lucian released her hand. "I'll cover you." She nodded once. That was enough. She sprinted into the open. Gunfire erupted around her. Lucian stepped from cover, firing with calm, deadly accuracy. One attacker dropped. Then another. His bodyguards advanced in disciplined formation. Amelia slid beside the wounded paramedic. "Look at me." He was barely 22. Terrified. "I don't want to die." "You won't." She tore open a trauma kit. Tourniquet. Pressure dressing. Hemostatic gauze. Her hands never shook. Not even while bullets struck the pavement inches away. "You're going home," she said firmly. "But first you're going to help me." He nodded weakly. "Good. Keep breathing." The Mafia King unleashed. Across the parking lot, Lucian moved with chilling efficiency. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't furious. He was precise. Every shot deliberate. Every movement economical. Years of combat experience revealed themselves. A gunman tried flanking from the left. Lucian disarmed him with one clean shot before another guard restrained him. Another attacker rushed forward with an assault rifle. Lucian closed the distance instead of retreating. One strike. The rifle clattered away. A second strike. The attacker collapsed unconscious. Amelia caught herself staring. She had never witnessed violence like this. He fought only when necessary. But when necessary, he became terrifying. A second crisis. Just as Amelia prepared to move the wounded paramedic, another explosion rocked the ambulance bay. A fuel truck burst into flames. The blast sent burning debris across the entrance. An ambulance overturned. Smoke swallowed the roadway. "There's people inside," someone shouted. Without hesitation, Amelia ran toward the wreckage. Lucian cursed under his breath. "Amelia!" She ignored him. Inside the overturned ambulance, 2 EMTs were trapped beneath twisted metal. Fuel leaked steadily across the pavement. Fire spread closer every second. They're pinned. One firefighter shook his head. We need hydraulic cutters. We don't have time, Amelia replied. She climbed into the unstable vehicle. The heat was unbearable. One EMT had a crushed chest. The other was losing consciousness. Amelia assessed both in seconds. Help me lift on 3. The firefighter hesitated. The vehicle could explode. She met his eyes. So could they. Together they forced the damaged frame upward just enough. One EMT crawled free. Then the second. The instant all 3 reached safety, the ambulance exploded. A wall of fire erupted behind them. The blast hurled Amelia forward. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground. Lucian. His face was covered in soot. A shallow cut bled along his forehead. For the first time since meeting him, his composure cracked. He looked genuinely shaken. You could have died. So could they. They are not your responsibility. She stared back. They became my responsibility the moment they needed me. Lucian searched her face. There was no recklessness there. Only compassion. Only conviction. He realized something profound. She wasn't brave because she wanted admiration. She was brave because saving people was simply who she was. The traitor revealed. Vittorio approached at a run. We've secured the attackers. Alive. 2. The sniper. He escaped. Lucian's expression darkened. Again. Vittorio lowered his voice. We questioned one survivor. And he says someone inside our organization supplied hospital security schedules. Lucian went completely still. So it truly is one of ours. Before anyone could speak again, a young bodyguard stumbled toward them, clutching his side. Boss! Blood soaked through his uniform. He handed Lucian a small flash drive. We intercepted this. Lucian caught him before he collapsed. What is it? The payroll records. The traitor isn't working alone. The guard lost consciousness. Amelia immediately knelt beside him. He's still alive. She examined the wound. Her expression changed. This bullet. Lucian noticed immediately. What about it? She carefully removed the projectile using sterile forceps from her emergency kit. She held it up to the light. Her medical training extended beyond surgery. During her residency, she had completed a forensic rotation to assist in criminal investigations. This isn't standard ammunition. Everyone looked at her. She continued. The rifling marks are unusual. The alloy composition. She frowned. I've seen this before. Lucian's eyes narrowed. Where? Amelia looked directly at him. In a federal evidence seminar. She took a slow breath. This ammunition is manufactured exclusively for a private military contractor. Silence fell. Vittorio spoke first. Meaning? Amelia's voice was calm. The people trying to kill you aren't just rival gangsters. They have military-grade resources. Lucian exchanged a grave look with Vittorio. This war had just become far more dangerous than either of them had imagined. And somewhere, watching from the shadows, the true mastermind smiled. The helicopter blades thundered overhead as smoke continued to rise from the ruined ambulance bay. Police officers secured the perimeter. Federal agents began arriving. News helicopters circled the hospital like hungry vultures. Inside the emergency department, Amelia finally allowed herself to sit. It was the first time in nearly 20 hours. She leaned against the wall outside Trauma Bay 1, closed her eyes for a moment, and flexed her aching fingers. There was dried blood beneath her nails despite repeated scrubbing. Some of it belonged to strangers. Some of it belonged to Lucian's men. She silently hoped every one of them would survive. A paper cup appeared in front of her. Coffee. She looked up. Lucian stood there, still refusing to leave despite her repeated instructions. His forehead had been stitched. A fresh bandage wrapped around his side beneath his black coat. "You should be resting," Amelia said. "So should you. I'll rest after my shift. You've been saying that since yesterday." A reluctant smile touched her lips. "You've been listening. I pay attention." She accepted the coffee. "Thank you. It isn't very good." She took a sip. He was right. She laughed softly. "It's terrible." "I know." For a moment, neither of them spoke. It was the first peaceful silence they had shared. "He'll bleed out. It's too dangerous. If I don't go, he'll die." For one brief second, neither moved. Then Lucian released her hand. "I'll cover you." She nodded once. That was enough. She sprinted into the open. Gunfire erupted around her. Lucian stepped from cover, firing with calm, deadly accuracy. One attacker dropped. Then another. His bodyguards advanced in disciplined formation. Amelia slid beside the wounded paramedic. "Look at me." He was barely 22. Terrified. "I don't want to die." "You won't." She tore open a trauma kit. Tourniquet. Pressure dressing. Hemostatic gauze. Her hands never shook. Not even while bullets struck the pavement inches away. "You're going home," she said firmly. "But first you're going to help me." He nodded weakly. "Good. Keep breathing." The Mafia King unleashed. Across the parking lot, Lucian moved with chilling efficiency. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't furious. He was precise. Every shot deliberate. Every movement economical. Years of combat experience revealed themselves. A gunman tried flanking from the left. Lucian disarmed him with one clean shot before another guard restrained him. Another attacker rushed forward with an assault rifle. Lucian closed the distance instead of retreating. One strike. The rifle clattered away. A second strike. The attacker collapsed unconscious. Amelia caught herself staring. She had never witnessed violence like this. He fought only when necessary. But when necessary, he became terrifying. A second crisis. Just as Amelia prepared to move the wounded paramedic, another explosion rocked the ambulance bay. A fuel truck burst into flames. The blast sent burning debris across the entrance. An ambulance overturned. Smoke swallowed the roadway. "There's people inside," someone shouted. Without hesitation, Amelia ran toward the wreckage. Lucian cursed under his breath. "Amelia!" She ignored him. Inside the overturned ambulance, 2 EMTs were trapped beneath twisted metal. Fuel leaked steadily across the pavement. Fire spread closer every second. "They're pinned." One firefighter shook his head. "We need hydraulic cutters." "We don't have time," Amelia replied. She climbed into the unstable vehicle. The heat was unbearable. One EMT had a crushed chest. The other was losing consciousness. Amelia assessed both in seconds. "Help me lift on 3." The firefighter hesitated. The vehicle could explode. She met his eyes. So could they. Together they forced the damaged frame upward just enough. One EMT crawled free. Then the second. The instant all three reached safety, the ambulance exploded. A wall of fire erupted behind them. The blast hurled Amelia forward. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground. Lucian. His face was covered in soot. A shallow cut bled along his forehead. For the first time since meeting him, his composure cracked. He looked genuinely shaken. You could have died. So could they. They are not your responsibility. She stared back. They became my responsibility the moment they needed me. Lucian searched her face. There was no recklessness there. Only compassion. Only conviction. He realized something profound. She wasn't brave because she wanted admiration. She was brave because saving people was simply who she was. The traitor revealed. Vittorio approached at a run. We've secured the attackers. Alive. 2. The sniper. He escaped. Lucian's expression darkened. Again. Vittorio lowered his voice. We questioned one survivor. And he says someone inside our organization supplied hospital security schedules. Lucian went completely still. So it truly is one of ours. Before anyone could speak again, a young bodyguard stumbled toward them, clutching his side. Boss! Blood soaked through his uniform. He handed Lucian a small flash drive. We intercepted this. Lucian caught him before he collapsed. What is it? The payroll records. The traitor isn't working alone. The guard lost consciousness. Amelia immediately knelt beside him. He's still alive. She examined the wound. Her expression changed. This bullet. Lucian noticed immediately. What about it? She carefully removed the projectile using sterile forceps from her emergency kit. She held it up to the light. Her medical training extended beyond surgery. During her residency, she had completed a forensic rotation to assist in criminal investigations. This isn't standard ammunition. Everyone looked at her. She continued. The rifling marks are unusual. The alloy composition. She frowned. I've seen this before. Lucian's eyes narrowed. Where? Amelia looked directly at him. In a federal evidence seminar. She took a slow breath. This ammunition is manufactured exclusively for a private military contractor. Silence fell. Vittorio spoke first. Meaning? Amelia's voice was calm. The people trying to kill you aren't just rival gangsters. They have military-grade resources. Lucian exchanged a grave look with Vittorio. This war had just become far more dangerous than either of them had imagined. And somewhere, watching from the shadows, the true mastermind smiled. The helicopter blades thundered overhead as smoke continued to rise from the ruined ambulance bay. Police officers secured the perimeter. Federal agents began arriving. News helicopters circled the hospital like hungry vultures. Inside the emergency department, Amelia finally allowed herself to sit. It was the first time in nearly 20 hours. She leaned against the wall outside Trauma Bay 1, closed her eyes for a moment, and flexed her aching fingers. There was dried blood beneath her nails despite repeated scrubbing. Some of it belonged to strangers. Some of it belonged to Lucian's men. She silently hoped every one of them would survive. A paper cup appeared in front of her. Coffee. She looked up. Lucian stood there, still refusing to leave despite her repeated instructions. His forehead had been stitched. A fresh bandage wrapped around his side beneath his black coat. "You should be resting," Amelia said. "So should you. I'll rest after my shift. You've been saying that since yesterday." A reluctant smile touched her lips. "You've been listening. I pay attention." She accepted the coffee. "Thank you. It isn't very good." She took a sip. He was right. She laughed softly. "It's terrible." "I know." For a moment, neither of them spoke. It was the first peaceful silence they had shared. The following evening, Amelia finished another exhausting shift and walked toward the staff parking lot. She stopped. Her old hatchback sat exactly where she had left it, except now it was surrounded by 4 security guards. One stepped forward respectfully. "Dr. Hart, I know. You think this is unnecessary. It is. I'm afraid it isn't." She sighed. "Does Mr. Moretti assign bodyguards to everyone who saves his life?" "No. Only the people someone keeps trying to murder." Before Amelia could reply, another vehicle pulled into the lot. Not a limousine. Not an armored SUV. A classic midnight blue vintage convertible. Elegant. Timeless. Lucian stepped out carrying a long white box. She folded her arms. "If that's another expensive gift, I'm saying no. I expected that." He opened the box. Inside wasn't jewelry or designer accessories. It was a handcrafted leather medical bag, dark brown, beautifully stitched. Her initials, AH, were embossed discreetly in one corner. Amelia gently touched the leather. "It's—" She paused. "It's beautiful. I commissioned it 6 months ago." She blinked. 6 months. "I intended to donate medical equipment to the city's hospitals." He looked at the bag. "The craftsman delivered this the morning after our first meeting. You couldn't have known you'd meet me." "I didn't." "Then why my initials?" A smile appeared in his eyes. "I had them added yesterday." She laughed. "So technically, you modified an existing gift." "Exactly." She shook her head. "You really dislike losing arguments." "I dislike wasting opportunities." Unlike diamonds or extravagant watches, this gift wasn't meant to impress. It was practical, personal, respectful. She looked at him for several seconds before accepting it. "This one I can keep. I'm glad." Dinner without expectations. 3 nights later, Sophia cornered Lucian in the mansion library. "You've forgotten something." "I rarely forget." "You invited Dr. Hart to thank her." "I already did." "You handed her a medical bag." Lucian looked mildly confused. That seemed appropriate. Sophia smiled patiently. "Lucian, she saved your life. You thank someone like that with dinner." He frowned. "A business dinner?" "No. A proper meal. Without meetings. Without bodyguards hovering every 5 seconds. Without discussing assassins." Lucian considered the idea, then nodded. "I can manage that." When Amelia received the invitation, she nearly declined, until she read the final line. No obligations. No expectations. Simply dinner. Against her better judgment. She accepted. The rooftop garden. Instead of a grand ballroom, Lucian led her to the mansion's rooftop garden. Lanterns glowed softly among climbing roses. A small fountain trickled peacefully nearby. The city lights shimmered in the distance. Only one table had been prepared. Simple. Elegant. No photographers. No staff watching every movement. Just Sophia serving homemade pasta before quietly disappearing downstairs. Amelia looked around. I expected something much more. Extravagant. She nodded. Lucian smiled faintly. My mother believed the most important conversations should happen over ordinary food. So this was her garden? It was. He looked toward the roses. She planted every one herself. For several moments they simply ate. No tension. No danger. Just conversation. The woman behind the white coat. "What made you become an emergency doctor?" Lucian asked. Amelia twirled her fork thoughtfully. "My father. He was ill. He was a paramedic." Lucian listened quietly. "When I was 15, he died while rescuing people during a warehouse fire. I'm sorry." She nodded. Afterward, everyone kept calling him a hero. But all I could think was, heroes leave empty chairs at dinner. Her eyes glistened. So I decided if I couldn't save him, I'd spend my life saving someone else's father. Lucian didn't interrupt, didn't offer clichés. He simply listened. She appreciated that more than words. The man behind the empire. Amelia looked at him curiously. "My turn." He nodded. "What do you really want?" Lucian seemed surprised. "Power." She shook her head. "Everyone already knows you have power. I'm asking what you still want." He stared out across the city. "When I was a boy, my mother owned a neighborhood bakery. The safest place I ever knew." He smiled faintly at the memory. "It smelled like cinnamon every morning." "What happened to it?" "It burned. The same night she died." Silence settled between them. "I've spent 20 years building an empire." His voice grew quieter. "But sometimes I think I'd trade every mansion, every company, every dollar, just to smell fresh bread in that bakery one more time." Amelia reached across the table before she even realized she was doing it. Her hand rested gently over his. He looked down. Neither of them moved away. "You miss being someone's son." Lucian swallowed slowly. Every day. For the first time in years. Someone had seen beyond the legend. Beyond the fear. Beyond the empire. She had seen the lonely man beneath it all. An unspoken promise. A cool breeze swept through the rooftop garden. Amelia stood and walked toward the stone railing overlooking the city. "It must get lonely." Lucian joined her. "It does. You don't have to carry everything alone." He turned to look at her. "You're the first person who's ever said that." She smiled gently. "Then everyone else has been overlooking something obvious." His gaze lingered on her. Not because of her appearance. Not because she had saved his life. Because she understood him. And he realized he wanted to understand her just as deeply. "You know," he said quietly, "people have spent years trying to convince you to become smaller." Amelia looked away. He continued. "They were wrong." She met his eyes again. "You don't need to shrink your voice. You don't need to shrink your dreams. And you certainly don't need to shrink yourself." His expression was calm but unwavering. "The space you occupy is exactly the space you deserve." For a heartbeat, Amelia forgot to breathe. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not with pity. Not with flattery. With conviction. Tears threatened to rise, but she blinked them back. "Thank you," she whispered. A dangerous interruption. The peaceful moment shattered when Vittorio burst onto the rooftop. His usually composed face was grim. "Boss." Lucian turned immediately. "What happened?" "We recovered the files from the flash drive." "And?" Vittorio's jaw tightened. "The traitor has been stealing information for almost 3 years." Lucian's expression hardened. "Who is it?" Vittorio looked first at Lucian, then at Amelia. "I'm afraid this concerns both of you." He handed Lucian a photograph. Amelia caught a glimpse before he lowered it. Her heart skipped. She recognized the man instantly. "No." Lucian looked at her sharply. "You know him." Amelia's face went pale. "That's impossible. He was my medical school mentor, the man who had taught her trauma surgery, the doctor she had trusted for years, was somehow connected to the conspiracy threatening the Moretti empire. And if that was true, everything Amelia thought she knew about her past was about to unravel. For several long seconds, no one spoke. The only sound on the rooftop was the gentle splash of the fountain. Amelia stared at the photograph in Lucian's hand. Professor Adrian Keller, world-renowned trauma surgeon, decorated humanitarian, the man who had taught her that every life had equal value. The same man now identified in confidential intelligence as a financial advisor to the organization hunting Lucian Moretti. "It has to be a mistake," Amelia whispered. Lucian watched her carefully. "You trust him." "I trusted him." She swallowed hard. "He practically raised half the trauma surgeons in this city. He volunteered overseas. He trained military medics. He founded scholarship programs." Vittorio's expression remained unreadable. Sometimes the most respected faces hide the darkest secrets. Amelia shook her head. "I need proof." Lucian nodded immediately. "You'll have it." There was no accusation in his voice, only certainty. "I won't ask you to condemn a man based on one photograph." For the first time that night, Amelia felt the knot in her chest loosen. He wasn't demanding blind loyalty. He wanted the truth just as much as she did. A new kind of security. Over the next week, life settled into an unusual rhythm. Every morning, an armored SUV collected Amelia from her apartment. Every evening, it brought her home. At first, she hated it. The constant guards. The whispered rumors. The feeling that invisible eyes followed her everywhere. But the Moretti security team never interfered with her work. They simply watched. Quietly. Professionally. Gradually, the hospital staff stopped seeing them as intimidating. They became part of the scenery. One afternoon, Amelia walked out of surgery to find 2 young nurses giggling near the entrance. "They're waiting for you again." Amelia sighed. "They're not my bodyguards." One of the guards overheard. With perfect seriousness, he replied, "We respectfully disagree, Doctor." The nurses burst into laughter. Even Amelia couldn't hide her smile. 3 days later, Sophia entered Lucian's study carrying an elegant cream-colored envelope. The charity foundation finalized the guest list. Lucian looked up from a stack of reports. "The annual gala. You promised your mother you'd never cancel it." He nodded. The Moretti Foundation funded children's hospitals, burn centers, and emergency medical training across the country. Very few people knew the foundation belonged to Lucian. He preferred it that way. Sophia placed the invitation on his desk. "You'll need a partner. I'll attend alone. You've attended alone for 7 years. I survived." She smiled knowingly. "Did you?" Lucian looked toward the window, then quietly asked, "Do you think she'd come?" "You won't know unless you ask." When Amelia received the invitation, she nearly dropped it. The venue alone was enough to make headlines. The city's most prestigious charity gala. Political leaders, business executives, international philanthropists, hospital board members. She read the final line twice. "I would be honored if you stood beside me." Lucian. Not in front of him. Not behind him. Beside him. Doubt. Amelia stood in front of her bedroom mirror the night before the gala. Several elegant gowns lay across her bed. None felt right. She touched the soft fabric of a deep emerald dress before quickly looking away. Her reflection answered with familiar doubts. "You're too curvy. You'll embarrass yourself. Everyone else will look perfect." A quiet knock interrupted her thoughts. Her sister, Grace, stepped inside carrying 2 cups of tea. "You've been staring at that mirror for 20 minutes. I don't know if I should go." Grace smiled gently. "Do you know what Dad used to say?" Amelia laughed softly. "Walk into every room like you belong there, because kindness belongs everywhere." "Exactly." Grace took her hands. "Lucian invited you because of who you are, not because of your dress size, not because you're trying to become someone else. Go as Amelia. That's enough." A slow smile spread across Amelia's face. For the first time in years, she believed it. The gala. The Grand Beaumont Hotel glittered beneath thousands of crystal lights. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Photographers crowded behind velvet barriers. Politicians, celebrities, international CEOs. Every guest wore designer fashion worth more than most people earned in a year. A sleek black Rolls-Royce stopped beneath the grand entrance. A chauffeur opened the rear door. Lucian stepped out first. Perfectly tailored black tuxedo. Quiet confidence. No unnecessary display. He turned and offered his hand. Amelia emerged wearing the emerald gown she had almost left behind. The elegant silhouette celebrated her curves instead of hiding them. Her curls rested naturally over one shoulder. She wore almost no jewelry except the silver heartbeat bracelet she had finally accepted from Lucian. For one breathtaking moment, the crowd fell silent. Camera flashes exploded. One reporter whispered, "Who is she?" Another answered, "I don't know. But she's stunning." Lucian noticed Amelia tense beneath the cameras. Without saying a word, he gently offered his arm. She accepted, not because she needed rescuing, because she trusted him. Together, they walked across the red carpet, side by side, exactly as equals. The critics. Inside the ballroom, whispers followed them. "That's the ER doctor. I thought she'd be different. She's beautiful." Across the room, Bianca Valente watched with barely concealed fury. She marched toward Lucian. "So the rumors are true." Lucian remained calm. "What rumors?" "That you've replaced me with your doctor." Amelia immediately stepped back. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." Bianca ignored her completely. "You humiliated me." Lucian's voice stayed perfectly level. We ended our engagement 6 months before I met Dr. Hart. You humiliated yourself. Gasps rippled through the nearby guests. Bianca's face flushed with anger. You chose. Her eyes swept over Amelia dismissively. Her. Lucian answered without hesitation. I chose peace. The silence that followed was deafening. Bianca had no reply. She turned sharply and disappeared into the crowd. Amelia looked at Lucian. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Later that evening, Lucian stepped onto the stage to address hundreds of guests. Instead of speaking about business, he spoke about emergency medicine. He spoke about courage. He spoke about ordinary people who performed extraordinary acts every single day. Then he looked toward Amelia. There is someone here tonight who reminded me that true strength doesn't announce itself. It simply acts. He extended his hand toward her. The spotlight found Amelia. The ballroom erupted into applause. Lucian continued. Dr. Amelia Hart risked her own life to save complete strangers. More than once. She believes every human life has equal value. Our foundation is proud to announce a $50 million expansion of emergency trauma centers, designed under her medical guidance. Amelia's eyes widened. She hadn't known. Lucian smiled gently. You once told me heroes leave empty chairs. So let's create a world with fewer empty chairs. Tears filled Amelia's eyes. The audience rose in a standing ovation. Doctors applauded. Business leaders applauded. Even politicians applauded. The same society that had overlooked her now stood in admiration, not because she had changed, because they had finally seen her, a shadow among the guests. Across the ballroom, hidden behind a waiter's uniform, a man quietly pressed a button beneath his serving tray. A tiny green light blinked once. He whispered into a concealed microphone. The target trusts him completely now. A distorted voice answered through the earpiece. Excellent. Begin phase 2. The waiter slipped unnoticed into the crowd, as a black limousine pulled silently into the underground parking garage beneath the hotel. Inside it, someone smiled while watching Amelia's speech on a tablet. The Queen has finally stepped onto the board. It's time to remove her. The applause inside the Grand Beaumont Hotel continued long after Amelia stepped down from the stage. She still couldn't believe what had happened. Only a year ago, she had been an overworked emergency physician eating vending machine dinners between shifts. Tonight, hundreds of influential people had risen to their feet because of her work. Not her appearance. Not the man standing beside her. Her work. Lucian leaned closer as the orchestra resumed playing. You handled that well. She laughed nervously. I nearly forgot how to walk. You never looked uncertain. I was. He smiled. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to move anyway. She looked at him. You've said that before. My mother did. Amelia smiled softly. I think I would have liked her. Lucian's expression warmed. I think she would have loved you. For the briefest moment, the noise of the ballroom disappeared. There was only the two of them, until Vittorio's voice broke through Lucian's earpiece. Boss. Lucian's posture changed instantly. What is it? We have a problem. The missing professor. Vittorio met them in a private lounge behind the ballroom. His face was grim. Our surveillance team searched Professor Adrian Keller's residence. And it was empty. How long? Approximately 6 hours. Amelia frowned. He knew we'd be looking. Vittorio nodded. The security cameras had been professionally erased. No fingerprints. No DNA. No computers. Lucian looked toward the window. He ran. Or someone took him, Amelia said quietly. Before anyone could respond, Lucian's phone vibrated. An encrypted message. No sender. Only one sentence. Trust no one wearing your crest. Lucian's eyes narrowed. Someone inside his own organization had just risked everything to warn him. The first crack. The gala ended just before midnight. Lucian insisted on escorting Amelia home. The convoy stretched across 3 city blocks. Armored SUVs. Motorcycle escorts. Advance security teams. Everything appeared normal. Until they reached a deserted intersection. The lead vehicle stopped. Too suddenly. Vittorio spoke into his radio. Report. Silence. The driver's voice never came. Lucian's instincts flared. Reverse. Before the command could be carried out, a garbage truck slammed into the rear SUV. The convoy was trapped. Streetlights went dark. Every traffic camera shut off simultaneously. Then, the first rocket-propelled grenade struck the lead vehicle. The explosion lit the street like daylight. Ambush. Gunfire erupted from rooftops. Automatic weapons. Military precision. The attackers weren't street criminals. They moved like trained soldiers. Protect Dr. Hart. Lucian's command cut through the chaos. Bodyguards surrounded Amelia instantly. Another explosion flipped an SUV onto its side. Flames spread across the road. Smoke swallowed the convoy. Lucian drew his pistol. His movements remained calm despite the overwhelming assault. Delta Team, left flank. Echo Team, rooftop. Keep civilians clear. He never wasted words. Never raised his voice. His people responded instantly. Amelia dropped beside an injured guard. Pressure here. She tore open another trauma kit. The guard grimaced. They're everywhere. Stay with me. I can't feel my leg. You will. She tightened the tourniquet. Look at me. You're not dying tonight. Betrayal. Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed through the smoke. Lower your weapons. Everyone froze. Captain Marco De Luca, Lucian's head of internal security, a man who had served the Moretti family for 11 years. He stepped into the street with both hands raised. It's over. Lucian didn't move. Marco smiled sadly. I'm sorry, boss. You should have stayed dead 6 months ago. 20 of Lucian's own guards suddenly turned their weapons. Not toward the attackers. Toward Lucian. Toward Vittorio. Toward Amelia. Vittorio whispered. So it was him. Lucian simply nodded. I know. Marco looked genuinely surprised. You knew. I suspected. Then why keep me close? En answered quietly. To find everyone who followed you. Marco laughed. You always were the smartest man in the room. He pressed a button on a small remote. More armed vehicles emerged from side streets. Over 60 mercenaries surrounded the convoy. The odds had changed completely. A flash grenade exploded beside Amelia. White light. Deafening sound. She stumbled backward. Strong hands grabbed her. A cloth covered her mouth. She fought, kicked, twisted. But another attacker injected something into her arm. Her vision blurred. The last thing she saw was Lucian breaking through a wall of enemies to reach her. "Amelia!" She tried to answer. Couldn't. Darkness swallowed everything. Fury. No. Lucian's roar echoed through the burning street. He fought like a man possessed. One attacker fell. Then another. Then another. No hesitation. No mercy. Only relentless determination. But every second carried Amelia farther away. A black helicopter descended onto a nearby rooftop. The kidnappers loaded Amelia aboard. Lucian fired repeatedly. One bullet shattered the helicopter door. Too late. The aircraft lifted into the night. His hand clenched into a fist so tightly that blood ran between his fingers. For the first time in years, the feared Mafia King looked completely powerless. Awakening. Hours later, Amelia slowly opened her eyes. Her head pounded. Her wrists were bound. The room smelled of antiseptic, old wood, and expensive cigars. She wasn't in a warehouse or a prison. She was inside an elegant private estate. Someone sat quietly across from her. An older man. Silver hair. Perfect posture. A tailored charcoal suit. He closed the book he had been reading. "Good evening, Dr. Hart." Amelia blinked. "Professor Keller?" He smiled sadly. "I was wondering how long it would take you to recognize me." She stared at him in disbelief. "You? All of this?" He nodded. "Yes. The scholarships, the charity missions, the medical conferences. Those were all real. So is everything you've heard about me tonight." Her voice trembled. "Why?" Keller stood and walked to the window overlooking a vast private compound. "Because medicine heals people." He turned slowly. "But power changes history." Amelia's heart sank. Everything she had believed about the man who mentored her had been shattered. And somewhere across the city, Lucian Moretti made a single promise to every surviving member of his empire. "I don't care how many fortunes I spend. I don't care how many enemies I make. I don't care how long this war lasts." He looked at the burning remains of the convoy, then quietly finished. "Bring her home." The order spread across the Moretti syndicate within minutes. Every soldier, every ally, every informant, every favor ever owed, would now be used for one purpose: finding Amelia Hart, even if it meant starting a war that would change the underworld forever. The order spread across the criminal underworld before dawn, from the ports along the eastern seaboard to private airfields hidden in the mountains. One message echoed through encrypted phones, secure radios, and whispered conversations. "Find Dr. Amelia Hart." Every Moretti safe house opened its doors. Every trusted informant was activated. Every favor Lucian had earned over 2 decades was called in. Rival families who normally refused to speak to him sent information anyway. Not because they feared him, because everyone understood one thing: if Lucian Moretti failed to bring Amelia home, there would be no peace left in the underworld. A prison unlike any other. Amelia awoke fully to sunlight pouring through enormous windows. She wasn't locked in a cold cell. She wasn't chained to a wall. Instead, she found herself inside a luxurious suite. A fireplace. A private library. fresh flowers, designer furniture. The door, however, was reinforced steel. Luxury had become another kind of prison. A soft knock came. Professor Adrian Keller entered carrying a breakfast tray. "You should eat." Amelia remained seated. "I don't take meals from kidnappers." He sighed. "I was hoping you wouldn't make this difficult." She looked at him with disbelief. "You taught me that every patient deserves honesty. So answer one question. Were any of those lessons real?" For the first time, Keller's composure cracked. "They were all real. Then why become this?" He set the tray down untouched. "I became tired of saving one life at a time. I decided to reshape the world instead. By murdering people? By removing obstacles?" Amelia shook her head. "No. You're not reshaping the world. You're simply creating another one built on fear." Keller smiled sadly. "That compassion of yours. It's exactly why Lucian values you. The hidden truth." Keller placed a thin file on the table. "Read it." "I won't." "You should." Reluctantly, Amelia opened the folder. Inside were financial records, medical research grants, military contracts, and photographs. One image made her freeze. Lucian, much younger, standing beside Keller nearly 15 years earlier. She looked up sharply. "You knew him." "I knew his mother." "What?" "She funded one of my first trauma programs." Amelia's pulse quickened. Keller continued quietly. "When she died, everything changed. Lucian chose one path. I chose another." She stared at the photograph. "You were friends. We were allies. What happened? Our definitions of justice stopped matching." Meanwhile, inside the Moretti Command Center, enormous digital maps covered an entire wall. Vittorio stood beside intelligence officers analyzing satellite imagery. Lucian hadn't slept in 48 hours. His beard had begun to grow. His suit jacket hung over the back of a chair. Coffee sat untouched. Every few minutes another report arrived. Nothing. 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 Then, a young analyst rushed forward. "Boss, we intercepted encrypted shipping records." Lucian looked up instantly. "Location: Blackstone Island." Vittorio frowned. "That estate was abandoned years ago." The analyst nodded. "Officially. But thermal imaging shows more than 80 people there." Lucian studied the screen. An isolated island. Heavy security. Only one bridge. This wasn't designed as a hideout. "No," Vittorio answered. "It was designed as a fortress." Lucian's voice became calm. "Prepare everyone. Amelia's escape." Late that night, Amelia noticed something unusual. One of the guards escorting dinner into her suite walked with a limp. Fresh blood stained his sleeve. Instinct took over. "You're injured." "I'm fine." "No." She stepped closer. "If that wound isn't treated, you'll lose movement in your arm." The guard hesitated. Finally, he nodded. 5 minutes later, Amelia carefully removed a bullet fragment beneath Keller's supervision. The guard flexed his fingers in amazement. "It doesn't hurt anymore." Amelia smiled gently. "It will if you ignore my instructions." The young guard laughed, for the first time since her capture. Then his expression grew serious. "Doctor, you shouldn't be here." Before leaving, He quietly slipped something beneath a folded towel. A tiny master key. He never looked back. Choosing courage. Near midnight, Amelia unlocked her door. The hallway was silent. She moved carefully through the estate. Every turn revealed more guards, more cameras, more locked gates. She memorized everything, not for herself, for Lucian. Halfway down a corridor, she heard voices. Keller, and another man. The Morettis have found the island. They're earlier than expected. Keller remained calm. Good. Then Phase 3 begins. What about the doctor? Keller answered quietly. She is never to be harmed. If Lucian wants her back, he'll have to earn it. Amelia's heart pounded. She slipped away unnoticed. Now she knew where she was. An island. And Lucian was coming. The final assault. Before sunrise. Fog covered Blackstone Island. From the water emerged silent black boats carrying Moretti special units. Above them, 2 helicopters flew without lights. On a distant ridge, trained marksmen took position. Lucian stood aboard the lead vessel, dressed entirely in black, body armor beneath his coat, eyes fixed on the island. Vittorio approached. Our teams are ready. Lucian checked his watch. No unnecessary bloodshed. The objective? Bring Amelia home. And Keller. Lucian looked toward the estate. If he surrenders, he lives. The boats reached shore. Within seconds, suppressed weapons neutralized the outer patrols. Electronic jammers shut down communications. The bridge was secured. The war had begun. Inside the mansion, alarms suddenly blared. Red emergency lights flooded every hallway. Mercenaries rushed toward defensive positions. Amelia saw her opportunity. She grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and smashed the electronic lock controlling several security doors. Metal barriers crashed shut behind advancing mercenaries, separating them into isolated groups. Outside, Moretti forces advanced room by room. East wing secure. Medical block clear. Hostages located. Lucian pushed deeper into the estate. Every instinct drove him forward. He reached the central staircase just as Amelia appeared on the second-floor balcony. Their eyes met. Relief flashed across both faces. Lucian! Before he could reach her, a hidden sniper fired. Amelia saw the laser first. Move! Without thinking, she threw herself forward. The bullet meant for Lucian struck the marble railing instead, showering them both with stone fragments. Lucian returned fire instantly. The sniper fell. He sprinted upstairs, closing the final distance between them. "You came," Amelia whispered. He cupped her face with trembling hands, searching for injuries. "I told you. I would bring you home." Before either could say another word, slow applause echoed through the hall. Professor Keller stepped from the shadows. "You've both exceeded my expectations." He calmly raised a small remote control. Behind him, a wall of monitors illuminated. The entire estate had been rigged with explosives. Keller smiled sadly. "If this empire survives, it will only be because you choose what matters most." His thumb settled over the activation switch. The red light on the detonator blinked steadily. Once, twice, 3 times. Silence settled over the grand hall of the island estate. Mercenaries stopped firing. Moretti soldiers froze in place. Even the alarms seemed distant. Professor Adrian Keller stood at the top of the staircase, his thumb resting on the activation switch. His face showed no triumph, only sorrow. "You've both spent your lives trying to save people," he said quietly. "Now let's see how much you're willing to sacrifice." Lucian took one slow step forward. "Keller, no one else has to die." Keller smiled faintly. "That sentence is exactly why your mother believed in you." Amelia's heart pounded. She wasn't looking at the detonator. She was looking at Keller's hands. Years in emergency medicine had trained her to notice details others missed. A faint tremor, uneven breathing, slight weakness in the right side of his face. Then she noticed something else. A tiny adhesive medical patch hidden beneath his collar. Her eyes widened. The symptoms fit perfectly. Low blood sugar, severe fatigue, hand tremors, confusion. Keller wasn't calm because he was fearless. He was medically unstable. She spoke gently. "Professor." Everyone looked toward her. "You forgot to replace your glucose monitor this morning." His expression flickered. "You always noticed details. You're hypoglycemic. Your judgment is impaired." One of the mercenaries frowned. "Keller, is that true?" He ignored the question. Amelia continued. "Your hands are shaking. Your pupils are uneven. You haven't eaten. Your body is failing you." She took one careful step closer. "I'm not trying to defeat you. I'm trying to save you." For a moment, the room became impossibly still. Keller looked at the detonator in his hand, then at Amelia. "You still see a patient?" She nodded. "I always will." His shoulders sagged. For the first time in decades, the brilliant strategist looked exhausted. "I spent so long believing power could fix broken systems, that I forgot healing begins with people." The detonator slipped from his hand. It struck the marble floor harmlessly. Vittorio lunged forward, securing it before anyone else could move. Bomb technicians rushed to disable the explosive network throughout the estate. One by one, the blinking red lights disappeared from the monitors. The war was over.